Hello there folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel, a place where I discuss different topics about spirituality, introspection, dream interpretation and many other ideas, usually providing an own opinion and a bit of my wisdom based on whatever sources I have encountered and whatever experience I have gone through, be they physical or a bit beyond. So the point about this is don't ever rush in taking whatever I say for granted. While also try figuring out why you would react to whatever I say, because reaction is nothing else than a pinpoint of the fact that you have given attention or too much attention and or importance to a certain idea. So today I'm gonna present a point that I haven't, I think, up till now, and it's called subtle English. Now many people may not understand that you may actually pick your words that you present consciously, but that choice of words, okay, that comes to you will always be subconscious. Okay, it will always be given based on who and what you are. The way you utter your words is gonna present a lot of things about you, and apparently I'm kind of bent in this direction of always taking into account how people say things and also what they say, but certain things within me will give me certain answers based on what or how people speak. So the point is, I may actually get get to know a lot of things, or some things, depends. It's not always gonna be the same with everyone. Okay, with some people I may not get anything. Most likely there is no connection with that person, or I simply don't have anything to tell them. At times I might listen to someone and I'm probably gonna tell them something that's, well, in rare cases may even pop their eyes. It's like, okay, they get really curious as to how I could get to know something about them without even being, too long close to them, but it doesn't always happen. So today's word of English is the word fully. Now what I felt yesterday before I went to bed, because I didn't want to make the video yesterday, now I'm a bit better rested. The word fully is, well, one of the words that people kind of use, and I felt that this word kind of shows a lack of self-trust, because many people use this word, and when you use the word fully, you use it, it has a vibration, at least to me, of wanting to be, in a way complete, but it's actually a lack of such idea, right? It's a lack of completion, right? Because why would you want something to be fully, okay, or something to be full, right? There is nothing that can ever be full, right? You can get, now it depends on what sense you want to go. If you just want to go purely mentally, right, based on the mind, which is, well, nothing more than the first three chakras, well, according to the mind, something is full when it is full, right? But if you go beyond that, okay, if something is full, okay, and remains so, it is stuck. Because if you get a cup and you pour water into it until it is full, right, the point about this is, if you keep the same water in there, it is stuck. Just like people, they load their minds full with ideas that they can no longer cleanse, or they get stuck to them. They create too much meaning in their life, and meaning is a self-destruction button. I have a few videos, I think, on this already, and there are other people who speak on how destructive meaning can be. And of course, if people want to keep to it, I am by no means offended or annoyed or moved by that. To each their own. Everyone has to understand their own ideas and learn their own lessons. And in the end, the words show kind of who you are, okay? Now, I'm not gonna judge anyone, because I simply strayed as much as possible from this discernment, okay, that can be wrongly used in, misinterpreting people. So, as I said, one may pick their words consciously, but the choice itself will always present subconsciously based on who and what they are, okay? Those words, in order to make a choice, you need to actually have the choice, right? Or the choices to pick from. And when people say fully, it shows a distrust in themselves. There is something within them that they simply don't trust. While at the same time, the reality is when they use fully, they are still convinced somewhere deep, deep down inside them that there is something more about that, right? If you go beyond the idea of the mind, like I always tend, the point about the cup being full is that it will never be full with the same thing. But, amusingly speaking, even when the cup is not full with water, it is still full, because there is air in there, there is matter in there. It is just that it is more subtle. It isn't fully physical, but air is still physical because you can touch it. You can, yes, you can actually touch it and you can feel it, especially when currents beat, right? Not everything physical has to be visible by our eyes, right? There are subtler energies, and well, in certain practices it is called there are five main levels of existence, more like five main levels of perception. Up till the third one, everything is physical. Come again, the point is that physical part is much less, perceivable. Even the auric field of the body, that auric field is still something physical. And when you speak to a certain person, your auric fields overlap, and that's why you might actually have some gut feelings, right? Those gut feelings happen because of certain touches that occur between your auric fields. That's technically more intimate than, touching your bodies in sexual intercourse or just foreplay or the such, right? Intimacy already begins with that, although intimacy is a lot more different than that. Okay, there is nothing intimate even about sex itself, because sex indeed shows intimacy, but intimacy of the body, right? It's the body, however, is the outer shell, right? It is the furthest away from who you are. If you want something intimate, in a way I can be somewhat intimate. You see, intimacy is when you can understand something deep about that person, when you don't know them, for example, and you speak to them, and the way they speak back, right? It shows certain things, right? The way they keep their spine, the way they keep their their body posture, everything communicates because it has an internal aura, let's say. Okay, it has a certain vibration that some sensitive people at the right time they may actually pick. I'm saying at the right time because you're not most likely gonna feel just like in my case. I have spoken to a lot of people, just like many have, and in most of the situations I felt, those vibrations, right? Why each and everything about that person is more or less in that way. But I don't want to let my mind come up with ideas, because those ideas will be interpretations, okay? Interpretations usually come from generalization, which I always believe to be almost a psychiatric disease nowadays, because everyone is generalizing, and generalizing when it comes to life is very, very primitive to do. No life is the same, no life is, well, most likely similar, yes, that may be said. So when people say fully, they usually use it with complete, and you say fully complete. Now the point about this fully is that it only has this little pop-up meaning, right? It says I don't trust this process entirely, because if you don't, if you would trust the process, okay, what would be the meaning to you? What would be the difference in meaning to you if you would say complete or fully complete? There is no such thing as fully complete. You may have finished a level of a certain level, because that level that you have achieved could have been done at higher vibrations or at lower vibrations in similar or completely different ways. And that is just a stepping stone towards something else in the process of life's discovery, right? And the question previously asked is a trap question, because the moment you transcend the mind, there is no meaning. There is no need for meaning, because meaning belongs only to the three lower chakras, where the mind is also located, and the highest aspect of the mind is the ego, the third chakra, right? Your sense of power. And you live in your ego, right? And you listen to your ego only when you are imbalanced. Okay, only when your manipura and your previous chakras are imbalanced, because the mind is nothing else than survival. If you are stuck in concepts, if you are stuck in meaning and you even fight for that, that is nothing else than survival. Your mind has been created or has created some personas, okay? Because you need a persona to believe a certain idea. When you create an idea, it's like you create a little cult, and then you create these little personas, these little voices in your mind that support that cult, right? It's like they keep chanting for it, and you're constantly reminded that. But the reason why you are reminded that and you can't, remove that from your mind is because you're constantly putting it back. Any thought, any idea that is created and is not fulfilled, right? It's not accomplished through action, okay? These beliefs are rarely accomplished through action. It's just things that people keep in their minds and they want to escape. These things are, they always want to escape. You see, not even in black holes does life end, okay? That is a place where indeed something that most people have gotten stuck in will simply no longer accept. Energy can be destroyed. Well, of course, you can't destroy, the idea of energy itself necessarily, but you destroy the idea of memory. You don't actually destroy the memory, you simply strip it away. That is the purpose of black holes, and I can feel them as something like spirit guides. I'm very connected with these for a certain reason. So, black holes, your mind becomes like a black hole, but it's not fulfilling its duty correctly because you're attracting all these thoughts and you're keeping them in there. You're not allowing them to leave, and that is why they constantly pop up into your mind. They want to be let loose, they want to be let free, so that your mind is also free. But untrained mind and untrained emotions are kind of the most dangerous thing in this world, because when people start creating ideas in all directions, they will also feel things in all directions, and that is why they end up being a mess. When people say fully, they usually seek some sort of control, and of course it shows some doubt of self, but at the same time they are still convinced deep inside them that there is more to just that they have done. There is still a longing for more, okay? Because basically the only reason why you would use the word full is because you want to be full. You want to be fulfilled, actually, because as I said, English is a construct, okay? It is a subtle language. It is an occult language. It was created for deeper meaning. Back then in the time it was not important because the awareness was so small, but now, right, it is very subtle. If people understand the subtleties of this language, they will simply start removing the necessity to stay stuck with the words as they knew, because words have power indeed, but you want to be basically fulfilled, right? You want to be filled till the end, right? Filled completely, let's say, with joy, because that is the reason why we experience life in here in the first place, right? What would else be the difference in between complete and fully complete? Again, this is a trap question because, once you transcend meaning, there is no more meaning. You can understand different things because you have different levels of awareness, and the awareness doesn't require your physical mind to understand things. Once you understand certain things, you have to understand that they are curtailed to your experiencing, and curtailed to your experiencing, they only make sense to you at most. To other people they may, but again, it all matters whether they have your own awareness as well. Most people are barely waking up, so they are still stuck in the ideas, okay? They are still stuck in believing things, right? They are still fighting a system that has already perished, but that is the problem, because so many people keep fighting for this system. However, they forget one thing. If you fight against something, you're thinking of it, so you're technically feeding it your energy. What you think of is that what will grow. What you think of is exactly what will get nourished. Why? Because where your attention goes, your energy will flow. So stop fighting against things, because that's not how you achieve those, right? If you fight against something, you're actually feeding it your energy. So the point about this is, when would you know it's actually fully complete, right? It's just a function of your ego. Now, if you don't know about programming, okay, all the meaning is nothing else than a function, okay? It is something that you created in the past and you keep calling in the present, or almost, yes, in the present, because you need it. But need, again, is a lack, okay? In programming, if you have to create a code that repeats again and again and again, you create a so-called function, or, well, depending on programming language, it can be called a method. Now, this is a repetitive code, and instead of writing that code again and again, you just call that function, right? You just invoke it. So the point about this is, every time you use meaning, you call to your past, you call to your karma, to your memory, because that memory is what you created. When you created meaning, you created a little, let's say, idea, right? That idea is just a little food for your mind. It is a little food for those preachers in your mind, right? Those ideas, those thought forms that you have created to preach those meanings that you have created, right? They are just like those priests preaching your ideas, right? That's how the mind works. Those little personas that you have created, and all this meaning is like you're constantly feeding those because you're afraid of the perishing of those ideas. As I said, beings, okay, when they are born, because thought forms are still beings, when these beings are born, they want to become one with reality, as long as they are not, they want to become one with creation, actually, since, well, or as long as they are not fulfilled through action, right? Because belief and action are, in many situations, especially to people with lower awareness, they are something that they don't go together. That is why many people are simply miserable. All those thought forms they create, they want to be set free, but those people are afraid of letting them go, and those will constantly create all sorts of ideas: fear, misaccomplishment, and the such, right? It's the same thing as with people locked in a prison, right? They will always want to go out because freedom is our birthright. And, being kept within that prison creates a lot of negativity. That's how you can understand this thing. Now, if you ever react to whatever I'm saying, it shows that you are somewhat a slave of such thought forms, okay? Whatever I say, just try to understand in a sense that, or actually understand, okay, instead of understand, because understanding means to just perceive at the mind level, okay? Understanding means perceiving and understanding, but from the higher level, okay, from that of you, who you are. When you understand things only from the outside, right? People have created this habit of using or almost spamming this word, although they kind of have forgotten what it means. Understanding means just a very simple perception, right? It's just what your mind understands, but the mind is shaped by all your ideas, all your beliefs, right? The mind is one of the most perverted options of you, because the mind is just some ideas and thoughts you have picked, right? And emotions you have picked. Most of them aren't even yours. So your mind is technically as far away as you, okay? Your mind is as far away as you are, okay? It is as far away from your authenticity as possible. But so many people invest in the mind, and that is why they feel and perceive everything as distorted as they can, right? Everything is distorted by the mind. Your eyes have their own memory, right? That is why you will recognize someone in 100,000 people, right? And also, the fact that you know that person, they will actually act as a vortex, okay, of memory, because that is how your eyes easily can easily land upon someone who you know in a crowd of people, right? Your ears are also loaded with memory, and everything regarding you is loaded with memory. That is why you cannot and you will not perceive life the way it is, because especially if you are focusing on the mind. So this is nothing else than survival. Those thoughts want to survive, and their survival actually means that they want to become one with creation again. It's like they are some spirits of departed bodies, right? They are actually the departed spirits of bodies that they shed, right? Those bodies are what you're constantly feeding into your mind, right? And what you're feeding is some chains that would keep those spirits in there, and they are constantly wailing, they are constantly crying and drawing your attention, but you're simply too ignorant towards yourself, and therefore you'll be ignorant towards those, to understand that the reason why you feel like shit is because so many things within you have to be let loose. In order to understand this, well, you need to go inside yourself, and you see, this is nothing else than an idea of your ego, right? Everything beautiful nowadays seems to be made so horribly because people want to be the most awesome person, people want to be the most helpful person, and every time you get the most, right, or comparison, that is the ego, because it is never enough. You want to help people, but you want to force them to accept your help in many situations, right? This is again meaning and how and why it can be destructive, right? So if you have this idea of expressing this fully, okay, how do you know something is fully complete? When this comes actually, and ironically speaking, from the ego, right? And to the ego, nothing is ever fully complete, okay? Which is kind of ironical, because if it is complete, why would it need to be full, right? This clearly shows that you doubt yourself. So if you ever speak to me, don't feel awkward that I'm gonna point out some things within you. Most likely you will react to what I say. You will constantly ask me all sorts of questions, but those questions are asked from the level of your mind. Because the moment you react to something, I'm reminding you that something within you is not free. You're a slave to a certain idea. So if you ever ask me what's the importance of meaning, or why I say that things are meaningless, it's not because they don't need a meaning. In order to perceive something, you can perceive it without giving it a meaning, just like you can watch a tree without even subconsciously calling it a tree, most likely like I do, right? It's just passive watching. And I know many people may say that they are capable of that just because they're not consciously thinking of the words, but I assure you that the meaning is still there, subconsciously, okay? It's a lot of purging that one has to do, and I can say I have been in a way touched by the black holes. I had an event that I remember in a way, and I was stripped of meaning back then. I felt that everything that I knew was kind of taken away from me, in a way or another, okay? I'm no longer, like, it's happened a long time ago, and most likely my mind also played a bit with it, so I don't want to remember that as much, because every time you remember something, you remember the last time you thought of it instead of what it was initially, right? Because you have those preachers that constantly preach your personas, right? And they always add something extra, right? All the little food that you give it, right? Every time you think of something, you always add something extra, and those preachers also do. So it's like you're creating little gods within you. So if this function comes from your ego, how do you know something will be complete or fully complete? It is never ever gonna be complete for the ego, right? It's never ever gonna be full. It's never ever gonna be complete, let alone fully complete. It's never gonna be enough for the ego. Hopefully you like the type of content that I'm creating. Feel free to like and subscribe. Feel free to ask me questions in the comment section. Feel free to share this with people, but come again, if you feel this is confusing you, this is actually the best thing to do, because when you feel confused, confusion is one of the best emotions. It doesn't feel correct, okay? Because the reason why you feel confusion is because your mind wants to ditch certain things. Confusion says that the path that you have been looking for is not good enough, or it's simply not good. It's not serving you. So you need to ditch it. Confusion means that you need to seek even more, right? But for that you need to seek, right? It is a longing from within that you have to replace certain things, right? So if I ever confuse you, remember one thing: rejoice, because it means something within you broke. Just because you listen to someone who goes quite introspectively, I'm not gonna present me directly or indirectly as the one to follow. I just share my wisdom, and I'm not expecting people to follow. If they want to follow, so be it. Okay, I'm just gonna constantly, not actually constantly, but I'm gonna just share my wisdom, because that is one of my purposes, and I feel that this is gonna be part of my legacy. Okay, so all this being said, the idea is, if I ever confuse you, just rejoice, because something within you is starting to break, or was already breaking and was needing something, and synchronicity will always exist. So all this being said, take care of yourself, and, well, become introspective if you want to find out the truths. You will never find them outside, or you will find just distorted ideas, because, as I said, if you didn't understand the point that the mind is the most distorted part of yourself, and the furthest away part of yourself, well, go back and listen to this video again. Or it might not be the time to understand this. Don't take this as me being some kind of superior being putting you down. As I said, I do not judge, so say or believe what you want, but it will stick with you, because I do not take meaning from others. Whatever others say, I may actually interpret it, but that's just an impulse of the mind. I'm still evolving myself. I'm not perfect, nor does perfection exist the way the mind would want. So all this being said, take care of yourself. You are loved and appreciated. Whatever you are doing is the best you can at the right pace for you. Ferenc Board signing out.